As I sit here recording this, it is April 10th, 2025. Yesterday, which would be April 9th, 2025? The reciprocal tariffs imposed by the Trump administration on dozens of countries all over the world went into effect, and as a result of that, stock markets around the world continued to take a dump, as they have been ever since Trump announced his intention to impose even more tariffs than the ones he has already imposed earlier in his still alarmingly young administration. Doesn't it feel like it's been about 10 years? It's only been about 3 months. But anyway, so the markets took a dive again, but luckily, later on April 9th, 2025, mere hours after these tariffs had taken effect, Donald Trump took to his Truth Social website and posted this. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charged to China by the United States of America to 125% effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. The days is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Anyway, conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including the Departments of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States, I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Don't you love when he tries to sound professional like that with that closing? Thank you for your attention to this matter, like he's the manager and he's sending us all a memo about a new company policy. Anyway, Trump imposes reciprocal tariffs on a bunch of countries, on nearly 60 countries around the world, who he claims have been ripping off the United States, and these tariffs are going to make everything right. They're going to force these countries to pay their fair share and create balance in the world economy. And sure, there might be a little pain in the short term for us consumers here in the United States, but eventually that'll all settle down and level out, and everything is going to be great. From now on, it's going to be a new golden age of the United States, Trump has said repeatedly, because of these tariffs. And then, later in the same day that these particular reciprocal tariffs go into effect, Trump takes them off. Says, let's give it a 90-day pause. So here's my question. How are these tariffs supposed to work? What are they supposed to do? Are tariffs a good thing that are going to result in prosperity for the United States and a balancing of the world economy in our favor? Or are tariffs a bad thing that Donald Trump is using to inflict on people in order to bully them and pressure them into making some kind of a different economic or trade deal with us? Are tariffs good? Or are tariffs bad? Because if you remember, during his election campaign this last time, Trump insisted tariffs were great. There was no downside to tariffs, and he even said repeatedly, tariffs aren't going to raise prices for anybody here in the United States. Tariffs aren't going to negatively affect our economy. You know why? Because tariffs are taxes on other countries. If we raise a tariff on China, if we raise a tariff on the European Union, if we raise a tariff on Canada or Mexico or any other country, that tariff is paid by that country, not by us. That's what Trump said. Now, that's a lie. That's not true. Tariffs are import taxes that are paid by people here in the United States. They're paid by businesses that import goods from the other countries. And if that country that the goods are imported from is subject to a tariff, then it's the business owner that pays that tariff and then usually passes the increased cost of that product on to the consumer. So ultimately, it's us. We pay the tariffs. We pay the tariffs, not the other countries, not even the businesses, but us, the people who buy the products at the end of the line. But Trump insisted that's not the way it was. Trump insisted, no, 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 no. This is going to be great. These other countries are going to pay the tariffs, and everything is going to be awesome here in the United States, and it's going to lead to an economic boom like you've never seen. And then, after he actually assumed office in January, he changed his tune a little bit, didn't he? And he said, well, okay, look, there might be some temporary pain. Prices might go up as a result of these tariffs for a little while, but you know what? We're okay with that. Everybody knows that we're going to have to get through a little pain in order to get through it and reach the other side. After the pain. So there's going to be some pain, right? Prices are going to go up. But then eventually, new golden age, prosperity, everything's going to be great as a result of these tariffs. You just wait. So the tariffs, a little bit of pain, but they're still a good thing. We're still supposed to be happy about the tariffs, aren't we? According to Donald Trump. At this point, then the tariffs go into effect. The market takes a nosedive. Trump puts more tariffs into effect. The market still goes down. Trump announces even more tariffs. These reciprocal tariffs that are meant to punish individual countries that we have trade deficits with. The market takes a nosedive again, and finally Trump rolls back these reciprocal tariffs. And he says, we'll put a 90-day pause because actually these countries have reached out to us and they want to make deals now. So apparently now tariffs are not the roadmap to our prosperity. Tariffs are not a brilliant economic tool that are being used by the brilliant president to reshape our economy in a wonderful, positive way. Now they're a negotiating ploy. So it's not actually the tariffs that we're supposed to be happy about. Tariffs are terrible. Tariffs are bad. Nobody wants tariffs. We're just using them as a threat. We're using them as a club to threaten other countries to come to the table and cut economically advantageous trade deals that will work in our favor. So now apparently that's the use of tariffs. So when did it change? That's another question I might have. How are tariffs supposed to work? And when did the way they're supposed to work change? How did they go from our keystone economic policy to achieve unheard of prosperity to a brutal and ruthless negotiating tactic to get other countries to fall in line with us? Now, the Republican Party line, just in the last day or so, since Trump has announced the pause on the reciprocal tariffs, the Republican Party line has been what it always is whenever Trump does anything. It's all part of the plan, baby. This is just Trump playing 4D chess, man. Here's an article about it from Deseret News by Cami Mondo. Republicans praise Trump's tariff pause as the art of the deal. Quoting from the article, "Behold the art of the deal," House Speaker Mike Johnson said in a statement following Trump's pause announcement. President Trump has created leverage, brought many countries to the table, and will deliver for American workers, American manufacturers, and America's future. Republicans framed the tariff back and forth as a victory for the Trump administration, arguing the president forced countries to the negotiating table. Skipping down a little bit further in the article, others said the move revealed Trump's motives to use the tariffs as a negotiating tactic rather than a permanent policy, something that had been unclear due to mixed messaging from the White House. You don't say. Mixed messaging from the Trump White House. Who would have thought that such a thing would ever happen? Yeah, so what he was saying before about how tariffs are going to be the key to our economic prosperity, he was just playing a game, man. It was just the art of the deal. He was just working all of these other countries to force them to come to the table. And this was the plan all along with the tariffs. The tariffs themselves were never the point. Don't you get it? The tariffs themselves were never the point. The point was to use the tariffs to scare the shit out of everybody, even though he previously said that the tariffs weren't scary and we shouldn't be worried about it. But no, the real plan was to use the tariffs to scare the shit out of everybody so that all those other countries would come to us and say, please don't put the tariffs on us. Please don't put the tariffs on us. Please, we'll do anything you want, President Trump, please. That was the plan all along. And see, the reason why Trump didn't say that, according to these Republicans who are defending him, the reason why he didn't say that up front and let us all in on it was because that would have spoiled the plan. That would have cost him all his leverage. See, all these other countries, all these other people who are scared of the tariffs and are now coming to the table, they had to think that he was serious about imposing tariffs. They had to think that he was really going to do it. And so apparently he's been laying the groundwork for this for the last, 40 or 50 years, however long he's been publicly saying we should raise tariffs on everybody, even before he was a politician. So that was the plan all along. And for it to work, he couldn't tell everybody about it. Part of the plan, in order for it to work, part of the plan had to be a secret. But here's the problem with secret plans. Or rather, here's the problem with attributing events to secret plans. Here's the problem with Republicans and Trump himself coming out after he paused the tariffs and the stock market went up saying, this was all part of the plan all along. I never told you this was part of the plan all along. Part of this was a secret plan, but this was part of the secret plan all along. Here's the problem with that. You can do that with anything, no matter what happens. That's what's called unfalsifiable. No matter what happens. Because Trump never told us what the plan was, because nobody in Trump's circle told us what the plan was. No matter what happens, Trump can come out and say, this is exactly how I knew it would go. This was my plan. This was my plan all along. Don't you see? I wanted this to happen. I wanted the stock market to plummet for days and weeks on end. I wanted stocks in this country to lose billions, trillions of dollars in value. I wanted to scare the shit out of everybody who has any money invested in anything, or anybody who is worried about how they're going to pay their bills, or how they're going to afford groceries, or how they're going to afford to buy clothes for themselves or their children, or buy household essentials. I wanted everybody to be uncertain and terrified. Because it was all part of my secret plan, my brilliant secret plan that I can't prove to you that I had all along, but I definitely did. I definitely had a secret plan all along, and it was for all of this stuff to happen exactly the way it happened, because I am a 5D chess master. I'm Donald Trump. I'm a super genius. I'm the greatest deal maker ever. What he really is a Texas sharpshooter. You know what a Texas sharpshooter is? That's someone who shoots the arrow first and then walks up to the target and draws the target around the arrow. When you're a Texas sharpshooter, you get the bullseye every time. And that's exactly what Donald Trump and his sycophants and his defenders are. Another question that occurs to me is, what was the plan actually? I don't think that Donald Trump had all of this planned out to work exactly the way it has worked. But you have to figure there was some kind of a plan in place at some point, either by Donald Trump or by somebody in his administration. Because look at what happened. He imposes these reciprocal tariffs, the stock market goes down even more, and then, later the same day, he announces a pause on the tariffs, and the stock market shoots up because investors, traders, are so relieved that these tariffs, at least for now, aren't going to go into place, that the stock market rebounds. And it was a big rebound. It was a very impressive rebound. Now, I don't give a shit about the stock market. I don't have any money in the stock market. I think it's incredibly simplistic and reductive to refer to the stock market as though it's synonymous with the economy. But that being said, I am told by people who do give a shit about the stock market and know way more about it than I do, that the rally yesterday, the rebound yesterday, was very impressive. It was one of the biggest rises in stock value in many, 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 many years. And guess who can take credit for that now? Donald Trump. Now Donald Trump can come out and say, oh, the stock market it's one of the biggest days for the stock market ever. And that happened under my watch. That's because of me. In fact, I think he even gave remarks the other day, yesterday I suppose it would have been, where he said, a few more days like this one, a few more big rallies like this one, and the stock market will be back to where it was 4 weeks ago. Yeah, great. It'll be back to where it was before you, Donald Trump, drove it off a cliff for no reason whatsoever. Congratulations, everybody. We almost pulled the car back up on top of the cliff after I ran it off just because I felt like it. Just because I thought, oh no, because that was part of my brilliant plan. Because driving the car off the cliff and making everybody pull it back up again, that was all part of my brilliant secret plan. Don't you forget it. But now he can take credit for that. Now, am I saying that that was part of the plan? Am I saying that Trump knew that the stock market was going to go into the shitter, and then when he pulled off his tariffs or paused his tariffs, it was going to shoot back up, and that he planned that so that he could take credit for it? I'm not saying that, because frankly, I don't know if Donald Trump is smart enough to come up with a plan like that. Now, maybe there was somebody smarter than him in his administration, which I'm just assuming would be everybody in his administration. Well, almost everybody. Somebody smarter than Donald Trump in his administration might have come up with that. And maybe that's what happened. There is a little bit of evidence that Donald Trump did expect that when he removed his tariffs, that the stock market was going to rise dramatically. It's a very, very subtle piece of evidence that does require a lot of careful interpretation. But it's this. It's the fact that a few hours before he announced his pause on the tariffs, Trump posted this on Truth Social: "This is a great time to buy." Like I said, it's very subtle, but it may indicate that Trump had an expectation of the effect that his pausing the tariffs might have on the stock market, and that he was signaling to people that he was about to do something that would have a direct effect on the value of stocks, and that therefore they should take a particular action regarding their stocks in the interim time. That might be illegal. Maybe. I realize it's shocking to suggest that Donald Trump would ever do something illegal or unethical or anything like that, but I'm just saying it's possible. It's possible. And Trump is taking credit for that. He's taking credit for the stock market doing better after he paused his tariffs than it was doing while his tariffs were in effect. And of course he's taking credit for that. Of course he's acting like he's a great president because that happened. And of course, the only reason why that did happen, the only reason why the stock market had so much room to rebound, was because it was so low as a direct result of his policies. He's the one who tanked the stock market, but now he wants credit. He doesn't want any of the blame for that. He just wants the credit for the stock market going back up. I saw someone write on social media somewhere that this is analogous to somebody setting a house on fire, watching it burn for a little while, and then losing their nerve and putting out the fire and expecting everybody to thank them for not letting the house burn down. That's what Donald Trump has been doing to the economy of the United States and to the economy of the entire world, essentially. He set it on fire, he let it burn for a while, he put it out, and now he wants us all to thank him for that. But the thing is, if you intentionally set someone's house on fire, it doesn't matter if you then put out the fire that you started. The fact that you started the fire makes you an arsonist. The guy who torched the house doesn't deserve to be thanked because he put the fire out. The guy who torched the house should be in prison. He should be in prison.